Is Cavuto Coast to Coast. I'm Charles Payne in for Neil Cavuto. Hillary Clinton hitting the trail today to sell the virtues of not just big government, but gargantuan government. Now, of course, we just showed you 20 years ago her husband promised an end to such government. President Bill Clinton listening to voters then. So is this the new age of big government? Not only has it begun, but is it now on steroids to Democratic strategist Leader-Chivee and Bush 41 campaign aide Mark Serrano? Mark, let me start with you. Listen, we're in this sort of what I would call, and I've described as a welfare utopia. It's very expensive to be in this place, but it feels like Hillary Clinton wants to take it even higher.
Most definitely, Charles. Look, George McGovern, Michael Dukakis, Ralph Nader, they've got nothing on Hillary Clinton. If you like the soothing, grandmotherly comfort of government solutions from cradle to grave, then Hillary Clinton is your candidate. What's very interesting about it, Charles, is she didn't even pretend to be moderate. She didn't even pretend to go to the center last night. She went straight to her base. And she didn't want to insult Bernie Sanders supporters in the hall or across America, and that's who she's playing for. She clearly believes that big government is the answer. Take a look at her economic position, Charles. She said in the first 100 days, we're going to have the biggest economic stimulus in history. And how's she paying for it? By taxing the super rich and big companies. That's how she's going to do it. That's big government.
Lauren, I've long contended that President Obama, whenever he talks about economics, it's just a sort of a ploy. The bottom line is win votes, keep power. I mean, if Mark is right and Hillary does, let's say it's $1.5 trillion. That sounds like a nice number. And then free college for almost everyone. That wins your votes, doesn't it?
Well, look, I don't think it's big government to say that there are some problems that just don't get solved by the free market. I mean, we've had years of opportunity for private business. Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, living wages are certainly one of those issues where big businesses have, I mean, where they've stepped up and raised wages, I think they've been applauded, but across the board, we still have huge numbers of Americans who are working full-time and living in poverty. Raising the minimum wage is not big government. That's a basic common sense solution and a social safety net to ensure Americans aren't in poverty. And if nothing else in this election, we've learned that we have millions of Americans who are hurting, who need solutions to find jobs, to get out of poverty, to live a better life. The free market has simply not solved that problem.
How did they get there? How did they get there?
Well,
they got there with the same policies. They got there with stimulus. They got there with Obama's stimulus caused poverty.
Which was actually
and now you want to create more poverty.
Here's the thing, though. Hold on one second.
When the market crash was a Republican bill. But that's not really the point. Like, you asked the question about, like, what is this big government? Look, I think...
Well, of course it's big government. I mean, if you...
Well, the question is, are there any other possible solutions?
If you spend $1 trillion on infrastructure, that's big government.
Well, right, but infrastructure is not something...
If the government tells businesses how much they must pay people, that's not only big government, that's intrusive government, and it's starting to lean toward the kind of...
You know, it's really a question of values and a question of whether or not we think it's acceptable for Americans to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week and live in poverty.
Right.
Would I like to see private businesses step up and do their part?
Mark,
absolutely. I've been thrilled to see some companies do that. But
Let
where
me just
they
go to Mark Serrano
refuse,
for
they
1
need
second,
to be
Lauren.
compelled.
I want to present this to him in a way that maybe could be quasi-fair and balanced. Mark, here's one of the problems. We've already entered what they call the knowledge century. And what we're essentially saying is that we should have companies that are overpaying workers for minimal amounts of skills, when we should actually be pressing our entire country for maximum skills so we can compete in the right areas to stay #1 in the world. I don't understand why the Democrats don't get that as not only being an economic policy. Mark, why isn't that an economic policy as well as something that's humane? Because humane is making or asking people to be the best they can be, isn't it?
Look, stimulus is what has created poverty in America. My goodness, we talk about a $15 minimum wage. Why? Because people are in poverty? That's going to create more joblessness. My goodness, Charles, the problem with visa overstays, the problem with immigration, the problem with taxation. Donald Trump wants to take taxes down from 35% corporate tax rate to 15%, not just for big corporations, for all of business. That's going to stimulate this economy, but Hillary Clinton is really just another warmed-over hash from Barack Obama. It's 2009 all over again.
Please.
Let's take a reality check here. The stimulus bill helped stem the tide of losing 800,000 jobs a month after the economy crashed in 2008. Blaming poverty on the stimulus bill is absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
Second of all, the question is, look, I am someone who does not want to always see government solutions. I'm a huge advocate of, look, everything I do in partnership with big businesses. I'm a huge advocate for big business, and I think they often do the right thing. But when we have millions of people who are working full-time.
Hold on one second, Mark. Here's the bottom line. I guess we did, to go through this, we did have that stimulus package, and here we are.
And look at where the stock market is. Look at where the jobs numbers are. Look at the impact that it's having. And that was a Republican stimulus bill, by the way.
This country is still poor, though, and I think that's the problem. None of those things help the poor. All right, let's switch topics a little bit, because all week we heard the Democrats talk about, again, how great this economy is, guys. I want to look at today's news. The U.S. economy grew by 1.2%. The expectations were for double that mark. So this is the economy the Democrats are going to run on, one that's chugging along at 1.2%.
Right, and I say good luck. You know, Hillary Clinton embraced, elitism and globalism last night. And I say good luck. She's not going to build a coalition, particularly when the economy is what's going to drive people to vote. You know, look, the middle class has suffered. They've struggled. They are out of time. They are out of patience. That's been demonstrated throughout this primary election. And they don't want more time, more stimulus to give the Democrats time to try to figure this out over the course of 20 or 30 years. Look, the Great Depression was extended because of stimulus policies. The Great Recession, the same darn thing happened. And who suffered? The middle class. And what's going to happen is Hillary Clinton's going to end up increasing taxes on the middle class. This business that her stimulus can be covered by taxing the super rich is nonsense.
I do appreciate that people love to paint it this way, but it's just factually incorrect.
Lauren, I don't know if you saw the GDP report. I really combed through it really in depth. And what strikes me is that businesses simply are not spending money because they can't. They're afraid. If you build a factory and it kicks up too much dust, you've got to pay a fine for that. This is an area where Mark has been trying to make this point. I want you to help us out here. Higher taxes, more regulations, more fines. I mean, this is all anti-business stuff, and that's why we're only growing at 1% a quarter.
Well, first of all, we're rolling a whole bunch of things into it. Hillary didn't say anything about that last night, and I understand that everyone wants to paint her as this big regulator. Part of why we had, there are a bunch of things that we're mixing up here. The middle class absolutely is hurting. I think Democrats absolutely agree with that. Nobody is saying that they're not. The question is, what is the right solution? And is shutting down our foreign trade, creating protectionist policies, a solution to getting the middle class back to work? I think most intelligent people would say no, by the way, including one of the most respected business people in the country, Mike Bloomberg, who made one of the most compelling cases I think we've heard yet about why he's supporting Hillary Clinton.
What about lowering taxes? Because Mike Bloomberg would agree with that as well. What about making it easier for entrepreneurs to start a business, making it easier, in fact, making it enticing for businesses to build
I think
factories.
that's critical. And look, we also have a massive skills gap. And one of the things Hillary talked about last night is around getting is vocational education and about finding ways to put more people back to work into the high-skilled jobs that we need today. But the reality is that those take investments, and those are things that are not solved by the free market.
Had enough
Give me another solution to putting people into
an economic plan last night from Hillary Clinton, and all she promised is more spending. That's it. We've got 1.2% growth in this economy. Companies are sitting on the sidelines. They are not investing in inventory. They are holding on to their cash. And we've got to stimulate this economy through the private sector. We've got to bring the burden down on business so that more jobs can come from this economy naturally, not through government. Public sector jobs are not a representation of growth. And that's what growth is to Hillary Clinton. She said it last night. That's what she said. She said infrastructure spending
is not always public sector. That's factually incorrect.
One second, guys.
She said that's
she did not say that she was going to use the Department of Transportation to hire millions of people.
Infrastructure spending is temporary. So whatever is created there is just temporary. It doesn't, and we've seen even with Eisenhower, you go back and you study it, there was not massive job creation, although it linked the country and it had ultimately a good impact. But Lauren, when you talk about $15 higher minimum wage, essentially, and then you talk about the skills gap, think about what you're saying. If you're going to take some kid who's having maybe some trouble in algebra and say, don't worry about it, I'm going to pay you $15 an hour to flip burgers, why should I close the skills gap?
Well, that's a completely ridiculous equivalency. First of all, we absolutely we have a service-based economy. We need people working in Macy's and working at McDonald's. We do need those people. And the question is, do they deserve to have a humane life because they work in the services that we all depend on? So it's a ridiculous equivalency. But second of all, of course we need to find ways for people to get higher higher education.
I can't believe
this. 1 second, Mark, please.
I can't believe
this. We, of course, need to find a way to. We have huge numbers of jobs going unfilled in this country because we need high-skilled manufacturing, we need more people in tech, and that requires higher education, which has become inaccessible. So when the free market is able to come up with a solution to that, I think we'll all embrace it.
This is really important. Hillary Clinton has yet to hold a press conference this year, so I think that's like 238.
I'd love to see her do that. Listen, it's not because I'm a Democrat that I think she's perfect at everything she's doing. I would love to see her do a press conference.
Look, you're completely ignoring her policies.
Hold on 1 second, Mark. Let her finish, please. In the meantime, no, so Hillary doesn't hold these press conferences, but she's really hitting Donald Trump really hard for the way he handles reporters at press conferences. Take a listen.
Fair game.
So just ask yourself, do you really think Donald Trump has the temperament to be commander-in-chief? He loses his cool at the slightest provocation. When he's gotten a tough question from a reporter, when he's challenged in a debate. A man you can bait with a tweet is not a man we can trust with nuclear weapons.
Okay, so earlier this week, Mark, Donald Trump has that long press conference. He answers every single question, but some people say he tells a female reporter to pipe down, or I forgot the exact words now, be quiet. And so this is the kind of thing she's alluding to. You put yourself out there when you have a press conference. It's a lot different than answering a couple of questions while you're jumping on a bus or a plane.
Absolutely, Charles. Look, this is Donald Trump's, the essence of Donald Trump. And what he's doing is waging a war on the PC culture. He is unconventional. He's not going to play the game of the media this time. In 2012, Mitt Romney lost a very easy race to win. Because he was kowtowed by the media. He allowed the caricature of him to be reality. Donald Trump will not allow that, and that's why, look, he's got a free-flowing style. He'll answer anybody's question anytime, but he's going to push back on the media and this caricature of him as a demon because they're in Hillary Clinton's pocket. She, on the other hand,
let me tell you,
is scripted.
Oh my God, they have given him more airtime than any candidate in history.
I happen to know that you're right. I think the media, and listen, I kind of hate to admit it, but has a very, very poor reputation in this country right now. Does he go too far, though, if he tells a female reporter to be quiet? Can that actually backfire on him?
Why should she be any different? Why should she be any different? She was interrupting him, and he knows that she's out there supporting Hillary Clinton's candidacy. So give me a break. That's the PC culture at work. Why shouldn't he tell her to be quiet? What's wrong with that? What's insulting to a lady? She wasn't being a lady.
Well, let's let the lady on this panel have the last word. Lauren.
I just will say this, and I think many Americans agree with me. I think it's heartbreaking that we are calling basic respect, dignity, and kindness to other individuals.
This is about a fight for
PC
America,
culture.
And he's fighting for America by calling the PC culture out for what it is.
Let her finish,
and
please.
You're a part of the PC
Mark,
culture.
Let her finish, buddy. Please, Lauren.
Attacking people who disagree with you is not really the values this country was based on. This last 20 minutes was a perfect example of that.
Right.
I think part of the message of the
is not
Everyone had an opportunity to give their opinions on this show, and I accepted them both,
Charles.
Lauren. And you know what? You can push that needle too far and also overplay your hand as well. Let's leave it there. Thank you both very much.